Hi, K-pop lovers. Welcome back to our channel. Before we get into this story, and I need you to know right now, this one is going to stay with you, please take just 2 seconds to like this video, hit subscribe, share it with your fellow ARMY, and drop a comment below telling me how long you've been part of this fandom. Because everything I'm about to tell you is for the people who have been here, loving deeply and quietly, for years. And if you think you already know everything about this moment, I promise you, you don't. So stay with me all the way to the end, because the final piece of this story is the detail that the internet felt but never fully said out loud. Let's start with who Jimin and Jungkook are, not the chart numbers, not the awards, not the statistics, but who they actually are as artists and as human beings. Because that context is everything for understanding why this moment happened the way it did. Park Jimin is a dancer and vocalist whose artistry has always lived in the space of emotional honesty. Every performance he gives, every song he releases, carries a quality of rawness that makes you feel like he is handing you something real. His debut solo album Face, released in March 2023, and its lead single, Like Crazy, made history as the first song by a South Korean solo artist to debut at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, a record that had never been broken in 68 years of chart history. Not even PSY with Gangnam Style, which peaked at #2. Jimin got there first, as a solo artist, with a song he poured himself into entirely. And then his second album Muse, released in 2024, continued that legacy, with its single, Who, becoming the longest charting song by a Korean artist on the Billboard Hot 100 after spending 33 consecutive weeks on the chart, surpassing even BTS's iconic Dynamite. Jimin doesn't just make music. He makes music that stays. Jungkook is something else entirely, and I mean that as the highest possible compliment. He is the kind of artist who makes everything look inevitable. His solo debut single, 7, released in July 2023, debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with 21.9 million streams in its first week alone. His debut solo album Golden, released in November 2023, became the highest charting album by a Korean solo artist on the UK Albums Chart. And 7, that song, went on to become the longest charting song by an Asian solo artist in the history of the Billboard Global 200 chart, spending over 137 weeks on the ranking. Over 2.5 years on a global chart. That is not a hit. That is a phenomenon. Jungkook also holds the record for the most streamed K-pop soloist of both 2022 and 2023 globally on Spotify, and 7 surpassed 2.3 billion streams on the platform, making it one of the most streamed songs in Spotify's entire history. These two men, Jimin and Jungkook, are not just members of BTS. They are globally proven, individually extraordinary artists who have each written their own chapter in music history. Now, while all of this was happening in the world of Jimin and Jungkook, while records were being broken and history was being made, another story was unfolding on the other side of the K-pop universe. And this story is just as important. BABYMONSTER, the first girl group from YG Entertainment since Blackpink, debuted on April 1, 2024, as a 7-member powerhouse with their EP BABYMONSTER. Their pre-debut single, Batter Up, set a record as the most viewed debut music video in K-pop history within the first 24 hours, 22.59 million views in a single day. It then became the fastest debut music video in K-pop history to reach 100 million views on YouTube, achieving that milestone in just 18 days. On Spotify, Batter Up reached 10 million streams in 10 days, the fastest for any rookie K-pop girl group at the time. These are not the numbers of a group quietly finding their footing. These are the numbers of a group that arrived already knowing exactly who they were. Their debut studio album Drip, released in November 2024, sold over 1 million copies in South Korea, making BABYMONSTER million sellers in the same year they debuted. Their single, Sheesh, became their first top 10 hit on South Korea's Circle Digital chart, and Drip followed as their second. In January 2025, their first world tour Hello Monsters kicked off at KSPO Dome in Seoul across 2 sold-out nights, before expanding across Asia and North America, drawing hundreds of thousands of fans. And then in 2025, their song, Really Like You, went viral on TikTok and YouTube, topping YouTube's viral 50 music chart globally for 5 consecutive days in January 2026. BABYMONSTER were not just surviving the impossible pressure of being YG's next girl group after Blackpink. They were thriving under it, on their own terms, in their own way. And here is where the two worlds, Jimin and Jungkook's world, and BABYMONSTER's world, quietly, beautifully, unexpectedly collided. When BABYMONSTER announced their third mini-album CHOM, the word means, dance, in Korean, set for release on May 4, 2026, something happened online that nobody planned and nobody could have scripted. Fans of Jungkook, ARMY, the fandom that has stood behind BTS through every chapter, flooded BABYMONSTER's social media with messages. Warm messages. Genuine messages. Messages that said, in every language and every way, we see you, we support you, we are rooting for you. And BABYMONSTER's official fan community account responded with a post that stopped K-pop Twitter completely. Thank you for all the sweet messages from Jungkook fans. A crying emoji. A red heart. And nothing else needed to be said. That post went viral immediately. Not because of drama. Not because of conflict. Not because of anything negative at all, which, if we're being honest, is rare for something to go viral in K-pop spaces. It went viral because it was real. Because two communities that exist in completely different corners of the K-pop world, one built around the biggest boy group in history, one built around one of the most exciting new girl groups of the 5th generation, had chosen warmth over competition. Had chosen to show up for each other without any agenda, without any calculated move, without anyone telling them to. Just fans, loving music, loving artists, choosing to extend that love outward instead of turning it inward. Think about what it takes for that to happen. ARMY has been protecting, supporting, and fiercely loving BTS since 2013. They have fought for chart positions, organized streaming parties, voted in awards shows, and built one of the most powerful fan ecosystems in the world. They are not a fandom that does anything halfway. And yet, in the middle of an era where their own boys are making history again with their album Ararang debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200 with 641,000 album equivalent units, with their single, Swim, at #1 on the Hot 100, with their Netflix comeback concert at Gwangwamun Square drawing 18.4 million live viewers in 80 countries. In the middle of all of that, ARMY still found space to show up for BABYMONSTER. To send those sweet messages. To make those girls feel seen and celebrated. That is not an accident. That is a culture. And that culture was built, in no small part, by watching Jimin and Jungkook love the way they love. Jimin, who has always spoken about wanting the people around him to feel supported, whose music is fundamentally about connection and vulnerability and not letting go of the things and people that matter to you. Jungkook, who said when he enlisted that he would miss his fans deeply and that he loves them, and who has consistently, across 12 years, shown up for the people in his life with a fullness that is almost disarming to witness. Fans become a reflection of their artists. Not perfectly, not completely, but in the ways that matter most. And ARMY reflects something that Jimin and Jungkook have always embodied, the idea that love, given freely and without rivalry, is not a finite resource. It does not run out when you share it. It multiplies. BABYMONSTER felt that. You could see it in the response, "Thank you for all the sweet messages." Which is such a small sentence and yet carries so much weight. Because Monsties, BABYMONSTER's fandom, had watched their girls work extraordinarily hard since their debut. Had watched them carry the weight of enormous expectations. Had watched them deliver, again and again, with performances that made even seasoned K-pop fans stop and stare. And then to have ARMY, that ARMY, show up in their comments with love and excitement right as BABYMONSTER was preparing for their biggest comeback yet, with CHOM and a second world tour spanning 5 continents across 2026 and 2027, that meant something. It still means something. This is the story that doesn't get told enough when people talk about K-pop fandoms. The easy narrative is competition. The easy narrative is rivalry, gatekeeping, toxicity, wars over chart positions and awards. And yes, those things exist. We all know they exist. But they are not the whole story. The whole story also includes this: 2 fanbases, no official reason to connect, choosing to meet each other with genuine warmth in a completely spontaneous moment that the internet captured and held onto because it was simply, quietly beautiful. The whole story includes Jimin and Jungkook, 2 of the most beloved artists in the world, whose legacies are written not only in Billboard records and Spotify streams and sold-out tours, but also in the kind of fandom they helped build, one that knows how to love without rivalry, without conditions, without needing anything in return. And maybe that is the most extraordinary record of all. Not the chart positions. Not the streaming milestones. Not the historical firsts. But this, a community of millions of people, scattered across every continent, who saw a group of young women working hard and chasing their dreams, and said, without hesitation, without calculation, without anyone telling them to, "We see you, and we're cheering for you." And those young women said thank you, with a crying emoji and a red heart, because what else do you say when love shows up exactly when you need it and it is more generous than you expected? This is what happens when ARMY loves without rivalry. This is what Jimin, Jungkook, and BABYMONSTER proved. And I think, in a world that so often rewards noise and conflict and outrage, there is something deeply necessary about stopping to recognize a moment like this one, and saying, this matters. This is real. This is what it looks like when fandom gets it right. If this story moved you even a little, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And tell me in the comments, which part of this hit you hardest? Was it the ARMY showing up for BABYMONSTER? Was it BABYMONSTER's response? Or is it something else entirely? I read every single comment. I'll see you in the next one. Purple you, always. Purple Heart and Young.